Book TV on C-SPAN 2 brings you 48 uninterrupted hours of authors discussing books on history, current events, public affairs, and American culture. Join us as we visit book festivals and bookstores around the country, cover symposiums and author panels, and conduct our own author interviews. Tune in each weekend for Afterwards, where authors of the latest nonfiction are interviewed by a guest journalist, public policymaker, or legislator. And once a month, viewers can join us live with questions as we take a comprehensive 3-hour look at a top nonfiction author's entire body of work on In Depth. Visit BOOKTV.org to watch over 10,000 Book TV programs and to sign up for the weekly programming alert. Book TV is a great place to watch your favorite authors and to discover new authors and titles.
Literacy was used to define blacks as humans. Phyllis Wheatley, whose name was on the ceremony that you had here last night, used literacy to define black slaves as human and children of God. Phyllis Wheatley was one of the most well-known poets in America during her day. She was born on the western coast of Africa and kidnapped from the Senegal, Gambia region when she was about 7 years old. Not being of suitable age to be sold as a slave in the West Indies or the Southern colonies, she was transported to Boston, where she was purchased in 1761 by John Wheatley, a prominent tailor, as an attendant to his wife. Phyllis Wheatley learned English quickly and was taught to read and write, and within 16 months of her arrival here in America, she was reading passages from the Bible, Greek and Latin classics, astronomy, geography, history, and British literature. Wheatley published her first poem at about age 14 in Newport, Rhode Island. What was her impact? Her poems were reissued in the 1830s by abolitionists eager to prove the human potential of black Americans. Wheatley addressed the American misinterpretations of Christian morality. In her poem on being brought from Africa to America, she describes the stereotypes that slaveholders like Thomas Jefferson had been creating. She talks to white Christians about how blacks can also be Christians. She says, "Remember Christians, Negroes, black as Cain, and be refined and join the angelic train." She explains to her white audience how even though African Americans had been tarnished with the title of Cain, they were still children of God. Phyllis Wheatley addressed the notion that white slave owners that claim blacks are outside of Christianity. Real Christian doctrine proclaims that all are equal under God's grace. It says in the Bible that all men and women are Christians, are part of the body of the church. In the second letter from the Apostle Paul to the people in the city of Corinth, he writes, "So that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other." Phyllis Wheatley showed that Scripture states we should treat all equally. Using Christianity as a means for morality was the backbone in her poem. Without the common ground of Christian morals, her relationship and thus empathetic support from some in white America might not have been achieved. Literacy allowed blacks to secure freedom from legally recognized, literacy allowed blacks to secure freedom as legally recognized human beings.
And this is a book I never wanted to write. I wish this book didn't exist, because that would mean that Charles was still here. In 2005, he got orders to go to Iraq. And suddenly I thought, oh my gosh, he just had always been there. And I thought, he just can't leave. Well, I was turning 40, and he was going off to the war, so we decided to try to have a baby. And he left for the war in December of 2005 while I was 5 months pregnant with our son Jordan. He was gone the entire time I was pregnant with Jordan. And before he left, I gave him a journal. I was at a store shopping for a friend, and I saw this journal, and it was a guided journal with questions from men to their children. And I thought, you know, God forbid he doesn't come back. Wouldn't it be nice if he jotted down just a few thoughts for the baby? We knew we were having a boy. He became consumed with this journal. And he took it to Iraq with him, filled up over 200 pages that he wrote in the hot desert in Iraq after his missions. He'd go out on his missions during the day, come back at night, his roommate said his light would be on under the door, and he would write before he went to sleep. He wanted this to be a guide for our son's life in case he didn't come back. He told him in there everything from the power of prayer to how to pick a wife, to what it means to be a black man in America, to his love of the military. You name it, it's in there. He told him about his relationship with me. He explained to him why he wanted a son. He told him how to deal with racial discrimination. Anything that he could think of that he thought this baby would need to grow into being a man is in there. And he really meant for it to be a conversation with our son that would last over the years. So he sent the book back to me a couple months before he came home on leave to meet Jordan. He only got to meet him once for 2 weeks. I read it and I fell in love with this man all over again.
BOOKTV on C-SPAN 2 brings you 48 uninterrupted hours of authors discussing books on history, current events, public affairs, and American culture. Join us as we visit book festivals and bookstores around the country, cover symposiums and author panels, and conduct our own author interviews. Tune in each weekend for Afterwards, where authors of the latest nonfiction are interviewed by a guest journalist, public policymaker, or legislator. And once a month, viewers can join us live with questions as we take a comprehensive 3-hour look at a top nonfiction author's entire body of work on In Depth. Visit BOOKTV.org to watch over 10,000 BOOKTV programs and to sign up for the weekly programming alert. BOOKTV is a great place to watch your favorite authors and to discover new authors and titles.
But even after emancipation, even after the end of the Civil War, even after the passage of the constitutional amendments that purported to guarantee equal protection of the laws, it would be another century, another 100 years, before the first Supreme Court decision that equal education was a constitutional right. Today, the Jim Crow laws and the school segregation laws are off the books. Hardly a college or university of the nation's 4,000 colleges and universities doesn't include black students, black faculty, black administrators. African Americans serve at the head of the nation's largest corporations. An African American sits in the White House. By any measure, that is progress. But if that is one America, there is as well, and as we well know, another America. In this other African America, of 100 students who start the 9th grade in this African America, only three will complete college, compared to 10 white students. Now, the 10 is nothing to be proud of, but the 3 is appalling. Much of the difference between the college graduation rate of people of color and the majority population is, of course, financial. The cost of college and the inability of millions of family incomes to keep pace with the cost continues to be the single largest factor in the inability of families of color to send their sons and daughters to college, and the inability of those sons and daughters once enrolled to stay in college and graduate. Ask any college president, ask any African-American college president, ask any president of an HBCU, what's the #1 barrier to staying in school? Paying tuition and room and board. The country, in other words, has allowed more out of neglect and indifference than by intention, I believe, the development of a system of de facto educational failure that impacts all children unacceptably and more children of color severely.
What's so important about Malcolm is that Malcolm is a local organizer who transforms the black freedom struggle, but he also impacts what we mean by democracy. He has a long-running dialogue with people like Martin Luther King, with organizations like SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, with people like Fannie Lou Hamer. He's transforming democratic institutions. And if we exclude Malcolm from the civil rights landscape, if we exclude Malcolm from the human rights landscape, if we exclude Malcolm as one of the most eloquent critics of American democracy and imperialism and capitalism, we do him a disservice and we do ourselves a disservice. And when we think about where we are now, black politics in the age of Obama, Malcolm would have been a critic of where we are right now, because Malcolm was an indefatigable critic. He even criticized the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who he said had saved him. When he found corruption, wherever he found it, wherever he found immorality or wrongdoing, Malcolm X spoke truth to power even under the threat of death, and that's the example we need to follow today.
We have, in the United States of America, 14 million people who don't have work officially. We have another 14 million people who don't have work unofficially. We have people who are struggling. Cora, help me if I'm healing. We have people in Southeast Washington, D.C. with children who can't do what they need to do because they're hurting. What do we do about that? Here's what I think we do. Number one, we talk about the images, the outcomes, the possibilities that we have. But number two, President Obama could do more. I think that he feels constrained, but I tell people all the time, you will not even get fed in your mama's house unless you bring your plate to the table, which means Black America has to ask this president to do what we need him to do. Ask him, tell him, exhort him. Guys, I am so enamored of this president, and I am so disturbed about economic policy. And we have to be able to communicate that. What can we do in a year? In a year, we have to create jobs. That's what America is clamoring for. 1/3 of the unemployed people in our nation have been unemployed, Carol, for more than a year. How do you live your life unemployed for a year? What do you do? So these are the questions we must ask. And my brothers and sisters here, we must raise questions, ask questions, push, probe, provoke around the ways we think our economy should work.